Thank you for tuning in to The Voice of Adventure. Today we will be exploring Late Night at the Office, where our protagonist is given a last-minute impossible task, and while working on it, he meets some unexpected people.
Evan, just the man I wanted to see.
A large burly man in an exquisite three-piece suit stood blocking the exit to Evan's cubicle.
I was just informed that our shareholders meeting next week has been pushed up to tomorrow, so I need that quarterly report finished and sent to me tonight.
George, that won't be possible. I need at least 5 or 6 hours to put everything together. We should ask to reschedule the shareholders meeting since we don't have the report ready.
That isn't an option. I just need you to get the report done. Send it to me once you have it complete.
George turned and walked back to his office. How can I get this report done for tomorrow? Evan thought. Can I even finish it if I stay late a third night in a row? Maybe if I had help. Evan went around to everyone in the office, asking them if they could stay late and help with the report. Unfortunately, everyone knew how long the report would take, so they all came up with excuses about how they couldn't help. Evan was furious he had to do it alone. Why was he the only one willing to work hard to get this done? But what could he do? He couldn't force them to stay. Accepting that he wouldn't have any help, Evan rushed through his multitude of tasks that also needed doing, hoping to finish them quickly so he could start on the report. He worked faster than he thought possible, quickly crossing off every task that was assigned that day. Evan sat back, closed his eyes, and sighed. Only one thing left, the report. Maybe he wouldn't be here too late. See ya, Evan. Good luck on the report, Connor from the next cubicle said before walking towards the door. See ya, Connor, Evan responded. Was it 5:30 already? Evan let out a heavy sigh as he looked at the time. It was indeed past 5:30, and he hadn't even started on the report yet. He was going to be here all night. Within the next 10 minutes, the office was a ghost town. Everything was dark and quiet. Random lights flickered and weird sounds brought an uneasy feeling to Evan as he worked on the report. Hours passed as he sat hunched at his desk, putting together all the information he needed. Before long, his eyes felt heavy, his body ached for sleep, and no amount of caffeine kept him moving. He forced himself to work a little bit longer before laying his head on his desk to rest his eyes. Within seconds, he was asleep. He woke up and it was still dark outside. He tried to stretch, but his hands and feet wouldn't move. Frantically, he looked down and saw extension cords securing him to his chair. He struggled, but to no avail. The cords were too tight for him to break free. Ha ha, very funny, guys. Great prank. Now untie me. Silence filled the office. Even after a few minutes, there was still no answer. He started screaming for help, hoping someone was near enough to hear him. The sound of something large and metal moved through the office. Evan screamed louder and louder, horrified about what was coming to him. Slowly, it drew closer and closer, until it peered out from around the low cubicle wall. Man, stop your yapping. My processors can't handle your screams. Evan stared as the office printer spoke. He screamed in a high pitch he had never achieved before. Ah, just shut up, the printer screamed. Evan's voice faltered, horrified with what was about to happen. The printer turned towards his computer and said, Computer, did you tell him nothing when he woke? Evan slowly turned his head towards his computer before screaming again when it spoke. I don't take orders from you. Besides, you never listen to me. So why should I listen to you? You could have saved us a lot of trouble if you had just talked to him. Now I have to step in and explain everything. Maybe you should listen to the appliances around you. Maybe then we would be willing to help you. Is this about all those times you said you asked me to print documents? Computer somehow nodded. We don't have time for that right now. We will talk more about it later. It's always later with you. We can never talk about it now. It always gets pushed off because you have things to do. Computer looked disappointed with that response, as if he knew they would not talk about it later. Having calmed down a bit, with no screams left, Evan asked, "What is happening? Am I going crazy? Maybe this is just a dream." "You're not going crazy, and this is not a dream," the printer responded. "What computer was supposed to tell you is that us office appliances have always been sentient. We just don't show ourselves to human. But you, you have been ruining our lives." "Ruining your lives? How have I done that?" Evan asked. "I didn't even use you all that much." "Yes, but you've been staying late so often. You know how many poker nights I have missed because you were here late into the night?" Evan shook his head. "A lot! So go home, let us enjoy our lives in peace." "But I have so much work to do, and I have to do it here. Is your life just work? Do you just work, sleep, repeat? You should enjoy human activities, not stay here your whole life." "I wish I could, but life doesn't work that way. But you wouldn't know because you're just a printer." "Honey, I know more about what happens in this office than you do. I see every document you all print. I overhear all the secret conversations. I know Larry's about to get that promotion you asked for." "Larry?" Evan attempted to break his bondage, visibly angry. "Why would they promote him? He just got here and doesn't even work. All he does is sit around all day and take credit for other people's work. I have been working hard for years, getting all their projects done, sacrificing my nights. I should be the next in line for promotion. It sounds like you need to take some time off." "I can't leave now. If they're trying to give Larry the promotion, that just means I have to work harder and show them how I deserve the position over him." "You're missing the point. I'm going to take you to Projector. He should be able to talk some sense into you." Printer somehow grabbed the end of the extension cord and started dragging Evan, still tied to a chair, through the office. They passed rows of empty cubicles, but oddly, all the monitors were on. They continued past the break room, where everyone would grab a cup of coffee in the mornings. As they passed the room, Evan noticed a coffee pot sitting on the edge of the counter, shaking profusely. It looked overused, with stains spotting the glass, small cracks stretching out from the top, and burn marks on the bottom from constant use. "Where are you going with human, Printer?" the coffee pot asked, almost falling from his shaking. "Oh hey, coffee pot. I'm taking him to Projector. I tried explaining he needs to get out more and stop working, but like the idiot human he is, he didn't understand." "Hey, I'm right here," Evan interjected. Coffee pot and Printer completely ignored him and continued their conversation. "I'm hoping Projector can talk some sense into him." "That's a good plan. The humans are always looking at important things through Projector. If anyone can get through his thick skull, it would be Projector." "Well, I'm off. Don't catch on fire again," Printer said jokingly. Evan looked worried. Catch on fire? Is that a possibility? He struggled in his bondage, knowing that if a fire broke out, he would not be able to escape. They continued a few cubicles down before stopping again.
"Printer, are you showing a new appliance around?"
The water cooler squinted, somehow barely able to see what was going on. They stopped at the water cooler, which, according to rumors, was the exact same water cooler that was here when George started about 50 years ago. It was scratched, dented, and barely functioning. The whole office was renovated and updated with new tech, but this water cooler stayed through it all. How old was this thing? And why had the company never gotten a new one? "Yes, sir. The humans brought in a new appliance today, and I'm showing them around. New appliance? This is water cooler. He's the oldest and wisest of us here." Printer leaned into Evan and whispered, "Just go along with it."
"What was that, Printer? My hearing's not what it used to be."
"I was just making sure a new appliance would introduce themselves to you correctly." Printer looked at Evan. "Go ahead." "It's wonderful to meet you, sir. I'll have to come back and hear some of your great wisdom," Evan said, staring at Printer, questioning why he had to do this.
You sound familiar. Are you sure you've not been here before?
Evan looked at Printer, unsure what to say. Yes, Printer responded, nervous he might recognize Evan. He's never been here before. We must be off now, so lots of the office to see.
Oh, yes. Don't let me hold you up. But definitely come back so I can tell you the great history of this office space.
Printer rolled her eyes before hurrying away. She quickly dragged Evan down the hall before Watercooler could start one of his stories. Care to explain why I had to pretend to not be a human? Evan asked, annoyed he was thrown into the situation. Like I said earlier, Watercooler's the oldest appliance here. He's been around long before I got here. So, in his mind, humans must never know we exist. He has told stories of tests that were run on appliances who talk to a human. Evan's mouth hung open for a second, shocked. But when he thought about it, it made sense. That's exactly what humans would do. Printer continued. You really don't want to know what he did when the experiment started. There were fires, chainsaws, zoo animals, threats of missile strikes. It was bad. Evan sat there wide-eyed, thinking, what on earth? Enough about Watercooler. We need to get back on track and meet Projector. With no more detours, they arrived at the meeting room. It was the same meeting room where Evan had wasted so many hours in mandatory meetings. But this time, it was dark inside, with the only lights coming from Projector and computer. Projector sat on the conference table, displaying a screen on the wall while shouting orders. Mouse! Click that second link! The cursor on the screen slowly descended until it was in the right position. There's no reason to go slow. This is vital information that will be crucial to our endeavors. Evan looked closely and saw the link was the rise of bullet points and their importance to the development of society. Confused, Evan was dragged closer to Projector. Sorry to bother you while you're conducting research, but I have the human here. Oh, you're finally here. Projector turned and faced Evan, blinding him in the process. Projector pointed aggressively at Evan. I've been waiting for you. There's so much to teach you, but very little time. You can't even look me in the eye when I'm talking to you? Have you ever heard of the word manners? Evan tried to shield his eyes from the light, but being tied up made that impossible. Maybe if you didn't shine the light directly in my eyes, I could actually see you. A likely story, Projector said, not believing the human. Projector, you know humans need light to see, but can't look straight at it. Can you just start the presentation? Fine, but I don't trust him. Printer let out another sigh, losing some papers in the process. Projector turned back to the wall and began shouting again. Mouse! Minimize this window and pull up the points the human needs to know .ppt. The cursor slowly moved to the top right of the screen. Why are you moving so slowly? We have to teach this human quickly because we have vital information to get back to. Sorry, Projector, sir. The computer has cursor speed set to very low. I'm moving as fast as I can. I don't want excuses. I made it a point to prepare this presentation in advance so we can point out the faults in this human's ways. Are you slowing down that process? If you don't work faster soon, I'll have to come in there and do it myself. Evan could hear Mouse trying his best while attempting to reason with Computer, but Computer just lightly chuckled and did not adjust the cursor speed. After a few minutes, Mouse finally brought up the PowerPoint ready for Projector to present. It's a wonder how you are still my intern. I should throw you into the closet with overhead projector, Projector said, grumbling. Just then, the closet door opened, and a very dusty overhead projector came wobbling out. He appeared to be on his last legs, barely able to move out of the closet. His body was dented and paint was chipping away, revealing his metal underneath. Did someone call for me? He said in an old, shaky voice. No, Projector shouted. No one called for you, Grandpa. Get back in the closet where you belong. Overhead Projector looked sad. The excitement of being of use again snatched away in an instant. He slowly wobbled back into the closet, disappointingly, closing the door behind him. Finally back on track. Projector let out a sigh of relief. Mouse, first slide. The screen changed and the presentation began. Human, your life sucks. Evan interrupted. Ouch! And my name is Evan. Projector turned to Evan, blinding him again. In a low, angry voice, he said, No one dares interrupt me when I am presenting. He stared down Evan for a long minute before quickly turning back and continuing the presentation as if nothing had happened. Here are 4 main points as to why your life sucks. 1. You spend all your time at work. 2. You have no friends. 3. You have no life outside of this building. 4. You're of no importance here. Projector went on and on, insulting Evan and how little life he truly had. Slide by slide, bullet point after bullet point, Evan saw more and more how true it was. Not only did he not have a life outside of work, but he did not have a true future here. Printer had told him earlier that Larry would be getting the promotion. All of his hard work was going to waste. After the 50th slide, Evan shouted, That's enough! Projector stopped, annoyed that Evan was interrupting again. I am not even halfway done. We must continue if you want to finish before other humans start showing up. No more of this presentation. I've had enough. The room fell silent as Evan breathed heavily. Letting out a sigh, he continued, I see what you mean. I have nothing outside of here, and there's nothing left for me here. Silence hung in the room as none of the appliances said anything. After a few minutes, Printer wheeled closer to Evan and said, Mouse, go ahead and print that document I told you about. In a few minutes, a few pieces of paper landed on the conference table in front of Evan. In the back of his mind, Evan thought he heard his computer say, Why can't you listen to me like you just listened to him? It may be true that this office has nothing left for you, but with all your hard work, you now have 3 weeks of paid time off you can take. South America's beautiful this time of year. Doesn't that need to be approved by a manager?
Already approved, computer said.
Get out of here and start living a real life, Printer said. Evan felt like he didn't deserve this. What had he done for these appliances for them to give him such a wake-up call? He looked at them, about to thank them profusely, but Printer cut him off. No, really, get out of here. I can't stand another night without playing poker. Just then, a large object hit the back of his head and he passed out. When Evan awoke, he was back at his desk and no longer tied to his chair. Nothing in the office looked out of place. It was all where it normally was. Could it have all been a dream? Evan thought. Moving around, he felt papers under his hand. It was the same papers that Printer gave him last night. There was a list of great locations for a vacation, a document showing how much paid time off he had, and an email from his supervisor approving his vacation for the next 3 weeks. As he sat there studying the papers, wondering if it was all real, George walked in.
Evan,
George shouted from across the office.
Where is the report? I told you I needed it last night, and it wasn't in my inbox. Did you even complete it?
Evan looked at George, then to his computer. There in front of him was a report, finished and ready to go. Evan looked at the papers in his hand, then back to the report on his computer.
Evan, did you hear me?
George shouted, quickly nearing Evan's desk. In that moment, Evan made a choice. He quickly deleted the report. Relief rushed through Evan's veins as he stood up to confront George. Evan stepped right into George's face. Calmly, Evan said, No, I did not finish the report. After everyone had left, I remembered I leave on my 3-week vacation today. I just came in because I forgot to put up an away message. George was shocked and furious.
You never had this vacation planned, and I would never approve it.
Well, you already did. Evan shoved the papers into George's chest. I might see you in 3 weeks. We'll see. Evan walked out of the office to George staring in disbelief. Evan didn't even care that George had nothing to show for the shareholders meeting. He was free now. That's all that mattered. Just before making it out of the door, he took one last look around the office, and for a brief second, out of the corner of his eye, he thought he saw the projector turn off in the conference room. No, it couldn't be. Then he heard a loud thud and George yell,
"Who put these extension cords here?"
Thanks for listening to The Voice of Adventure. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to follow wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also keep up with the stories and behind-the-scenes content on Instagram at Josiah the Author. Join me as we continue these adventures. See you in the next story.